I really appreciate this. Oh, so I know you mentioned abortion, but I don't want to talk about your personal views on abortion. I just did a story on this nurse in Vermont. I think it was the University of Vermont Medical Center.
Mhm.
Let me just give you a real quick briefing of the story. She comes into work, but when she got the job initially, she told her a nursing manager, I don't want to be a part of any abortions. I don't believe in it for religious reasons. She gets to work. She's told that her assignment that day is that she's going to help someone with a miscarriage. She goes into the operating room. I'm sorry. She's going to help someone who just got a miscarriage. She goes into the operating room and she finds out that she's actually the OR nurse to help with an abortion. She ends up filing a suit. She gets she gets let go. She files a suit. Now she's suing University of Vermont. The University of Vermont Medical Center says they needed her to stay there because she was the only nurse that could help, that was able to, that had the education to help in that procedure. I want to know, you can talk about that specific situation because it's very convoluted and you can go both ways on that one, but do you think it should be required that nurses that work in L&D, that nurses that work in these emergency situations be required to be a part of an abortion procedure if it's necessary? Or do you think that nurses shouldn't be, like, you should be able to choose what you can and can't do based on religious or personal beliefs?
So this is definitely a slippery slope, and I think that there are always gray areas. However, I think that if you are a healthcare professional that is working in labor and delivery, obstetrics, women's health, whatever that looks like, first of all, I like to say this. I don't know the case very well, just from what you've told me. Like, yes. I don't know the story. But here's the thing. So if this is where I get into gray areas. First of all, I think abortion should be legal, available upon demand, covered by insurance, and not the business of any other motherfucking person besides that woman, the people she chooses to invite into her decision, and her physician.
Exactly.
Or nurse practitioner or whatever. I think that is my baseline belief system, because I think that when we are able to control the number and timing of our children, regardless of whether that's I want to have 10 kids or I want to have no kids, I think that we as women become secondary citizens when we cannot control our bodily autonomy. There's so much manipulation and abuse of women that occurs that being able to control our fertility is safe, effective, and there's all these myths that need to die that, like, here, let me get back to this. So she miscarried, needed to go into the OR. So what happens then is the miscarriage, from what it sounds like to me, is already in progress. And what this woman needs is called a DNC, a dilation and curettage, where essentially what they do is they dilate the cervix. They go in with vacuum suction or a curette, which is like a little tiny instrument that's used to scrape things out, and we scrape out the remaining products of conception within that uterus. The reason that we do this is because if this woman is miscarrying, she's already miscarried. She's already in which miscarriage is spontaneous abortion. I hate the language around this. People are like, abortion. Yeah, guess what? When you miscarry, your body is spontaneously aborting. Should not be the polarized term. Women are not at fault. Women miscarry all the time. For some women, it's devastating, so we shouldn't minimize this. Yeah. But if you need a DNC, you need that DNC so that tissue doesn't become necrotic inside your uterus, make you septic, and kill you. So I would argue that needing a DNC during or after miscarriage is not technically an abortion. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, nurses all the time are faced with things that conflict with their own, like we talked about. I don't want to code your 90-year-old grandma who weighs 86 pounds. That's a huge ethical issue for me. But guess what? When I signed up for this, I signed up that I would give people bodily autonomy. And if grandma wanted to be full code and she told you she wanted to be full code, well, by God, she is a fucking full code. And I may not like it, but I have to do it. If I have beliefs against giving blood, anywhere you work, whether it's pediatrics, oncology, respiratory, ICU, general medicine, you are going to come across a situation where you feel your ethics are being violated. Now, if your ethics are so strong that you know that you could never, ever perform or assist with a DNC or an abortion, regardless of the circumstances around it, then I think that is not the industry for you. If you want to only work with moms that are giving birth and are happy about it, work in a birthing center. work in a space where you don't have to handle the other side of things. But I'm sorry, if I come in and I say, hey, I'm having this problem. I need to be on birth control because I have really heavy periods and it's affecting my quality of life and pain and my job. Like it's a quality of life thing. If your fucking balls hurt 1 week a month, a doctor would do something about it. Like there'd be something. But
you better believe they would. You
right,
better,
exactly.
You better believe.
So I think that there's always going to be that time when something is going to challenge your belief system. But if it is an expectation that is going to happen potentially over and over again in your job, find a different job. There's 8 trillion nursing jobs. You may want, like I said, you may want to be an L&D nurse, but maybe the hospital setting is not right for you if you're going to be faced with things. Because here's the thing. We have to take into account, like you said, she was the only nurse with the education and experience to do it. So now by your refusal, you've put that patient in a situation where they're either having someone who's not competent to do that care, doing that care, or the worst case scenario is they're not going to get that care, which at all. So I think that this is a slippery slope, but I would say no. When you are caring for someone else, I don't give a shit if you don't feel comfortable trimming their toenails. If they ask you to trim their toenails, that's what they need. That's what you need to do. So I think that if you're picky about who you want to take care of and how you want to take care of them, maybe find a situation where somebody's life and well-being isn't going to rely on your morals. That's what I say to that.
Adrianne, that was so well said. Holy Jesus Lord. Maybe you should go into politics.
I worked in women's healthcare from 18 to 24. They taught me that the patient is at the center of care. So like, for example, the simplest respect, when a woman goes in for a gynecological appointment, we put our feet up in the stirrups, we scoot our ass down to the end of the table, and you feel like you're the most vulnerable you've ever been in your whole life. As a doctor, you don't walk in and talk to the woman who's laying down with her feet up. You meet that woman face to face with her sitting up, with her covered, and then you say, are you ready to begin the exam? You don't disempower people from the moment they walk in the door. You want them to be empowered to take care of themselves, but you don't want to empower them when they're under your care. Those are contradictory statements.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a really long answer, but I think no, you got to set your personal beliefs at the door. I may not believe in giving this patient Mountain Dew with their pills. Like right. I may think they need water, but guess what? That's not what they want, and they're alert oriented and their own guardian.
So they got to do what they got to do, and we can't stop them. Stop them.